Welcome to the Matt Files. I'm your host, Matt Bigelow, the guy who does this. I'm the guy who does this podcast. Welcome to episode 84. I don't know what to call this yet. Let's call it Kawaii Fish. Let's call it Kawaii Fish, Orwellian Care, and Buddhist Muslim Rugs. For now, that's the tentative title. This is going to be more or less a media deconstruction episode. Sorry about that weird noise there. Let's get into this. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to all the people who came to last week's concert at the Tanaka Matsuri up in Tochigi. I was there for, it's like an annual, I talked about it briefly last episode. It's an annual harvest festival. It's nothing really official. Actually, the longer I play music, the more I have to reevaluate why I do it. Because money and fame are not reasons anymore. Ouch. So one great thing to do with music is the life experiences it can offer you. So, Tochigi is a prefecture north of Tokyo. It's kind of half plain, half mountainous. It's where Nikko is, and it's famous for rivers and gyoza, whatever. It's a beautiful place, lots of nature. And Tanaka Matsuri is Tanaka is the name of the guy who owns a small. It's not officially organic, but it's basically like a brown rice organic farm, pretty small scale. And after he does his harvest, he has a whole bunch of local people come over and basically play music and make food. And you can sit on these sort of tatami mats on platforms out in the middle of a field, drink beer in the sun, and listen to people play music and eat local food from locally produced farmers. It's really cool. It's super fun, and it's such a great opportunity for me, being a Tokyoite and a foreigner, to have this chance to be able to experience such local culture in rural Japan. Unfortunately, it did rain, but who cares? We took the concert into the Kura, which was an empty rice barn, essentially. It's like this old stone and wood rice barn, and we hooked up some microphones and got some recordings out of it as well. With the Dead Sea Dropouts, the band that I'm playing, and it's, I don't know, it's so much fun. It's just so much fun. So anyways, thank you for that. And then the next day we went out to a picnic. It took like an hour to drive there. Luckily, it was sunny. And this picnic was on the top of this hill. And this hill had this just commanding view. Talk about commanding views. There was like a mountain range, blue skies, a river that kind of est through some fields. And the river was, it got bigger the closer it got to you. So it had a really nice visual effect. And on top of this hill was like a whole bunch of Japanese hippies. And there was this one guy who apparently is an Italian chef. He put a pizza oven, like one of those stone pizza ovens with where you burn wood inside of it to cook the pizza. He put one of those on the back of a truck, and you could make pizzas at this picnic in a really official pizza oven. And he's a chef, so he has all of these ingredients. Like, there was wild boar bacon that you could cut yourself and make your own pizza with. Wild boar bacon, smoked deer meat, local produce. And there's all these kids running around. It's like very paradisey. Paradisical? I don't know how to say paradise is an adjective. Anyways, we come out of, like, these people don't know who we are. And our group member that is affiliated with this pizza group members don't really know each other either. So we, like, a bunch of foreigners stumble out of a truck and start making pizzas. Everyone's like, what the fuck's going on? So we break out our instruments and start playing klezmer songs. And you got all these people eating pizza, drinking beer, dancing in the sun to klezmer music, like non-Jews playing Jewish music to Japanese people eating Italian pizzas on the top of a hill in the middle of rural Japan. Wild. Great time. Great time. Went to an onsen, soaked my bones, scrubbed my body from head to toe, and came back to Tokyo. Wow. Super fun weekend. Those weekends are quite rare, as opposed to a weekend like this where I figure out what to watch on YouTube before mixing highballs. All right. So before we get into the news deconstruction, I'm going to play a song from the band Jungles. Jungles is an all-girl punk rock band in Japan. They've been on the podcast before. I did an interview with them, mostly Japanese, and I kind of bullied them with some English language exercises, which is pretty funny if you want to go check that out. This podcast is available at www.matthewpmbigelow.com/Matty blog. Just enter Matty B files into a search engine. It's also available on Podbean. Now, the reason why I mention that is because it's also on iTunes. Sometimes I see this episodes, not all of the episodes, but occasional episodes of this podcast will pop up on certain players here and there. But then the next episode won't pop up for some reason. I don't know if it has to do with some copyright thing or just the way the podcast works, that podcast service works. It's available on Laughable as well now. If you're a comedian from America and you come to Japan, do this podcast. Do it. So anyways, because this podcast doesn't play on every podcast provider, I don't know how you're listening to this, dear listener. But there we go. It's available on Matty B Files. It's available on iTunes. It's available at Matt Bigelow, MatthewPMBigelow.com. It's available on Podbean as well. All of the episodes. I was thinking about, how some people have, if you listen to a podcast or a radio, it's like, oh, you're a producer. If you listen to the beloved No Agenda podcast, oh, you're a producer. I was trying to think of names for this podcast, but I couldn't really. A Matty Beer? I'm the only Matty Beer. No, there's that kid rapper from Los Angeles that slays me in the rankings. Then there's filers for the Matty B Files. Yeah, dear filers. It's so boring. What else is there? Boozer is already taken. Could we call it disillusioned male? Dear disillusioned male listening to this podcast. Maybe that's what we'll call you. Disillusioned mailers, which even sounds like you're just mailmen wandering around the streets of the world, putting envelopes into slots, listening to this, going, yep, I'm a mailer. All right, let's get into this music. This one is called, what's it called? You Go Girl by the Jungles. I chose it not because it's a girl band with a title with a girl in it. I chose it because I particularly like this song off of their new album, Do or Die. Get it now. It's available wherever you want it. Just enter Jungles, Do or Die, and do a search engine. Check out their music. It's pretty good. Punk rock from Japan. All girls, all sexy. Let's get into it.
You made me so happy, I'm really happy. What kind of flower do you like? You really made me happy, I'm really happy. What kind of movie do you like? I see in my dream,
So this is news deconstruction for the week of, and today is November 12th. I guess we'll go from Saturday, November 4th to Sunday, November 12th in Japan. It was November 11th yesterday. I'll introduce my grandfather. He fought in World War II. Let's remember him. He was a Norwegian in Norway, a captain in the Norwegian army. And the Swedes let the Nazis run through Sweden unabetted, abetted, and took over Norway. My grandfather was not happy about that, so he stole some skis, escaped Nazi capture, skied into Sweden. I think he made his way to the north of Norway to then re-enter the battle and kick Nazis out of Norway. One story I have is he said a tree saved his life. Somebody, I think a Nazi, lobbed a grenade at him, and he hid behind a tree. And the grenade went off, and all the shrapnel went into the tree and didn't hit my grandfather. But the noise of the grenade blew out one of my grandfather's eardrums, and he was forever deaf, pretty much deaf after that in his right ear, I believe. I remember him sitting in a rocking chair telling me not to talk into that ear because he couldn't understand what I was saying when I was 6 years old. So let's have some coffee here. I'm sitting in peaceful Japan. I don't have to worry about Nazis, unlike what those Antifa folk tell us. Let's have a cheers. Hip, hip, hooray. Remember those who have fallen. I don't have to worry about all of those things. I don't have to have my eardrums blown out by grenades in the northern Norway mud in the middle of winter. Ugh. I'm sitting on my tatami mats in the Yogi Kubo studio with the sunlight streaming in. This is pretty good. I got Italian coffee, Japanese food. I'm going to a French restaurant soon, like this afternoon. Like I got to get this podcast recorded. All right. Well, okay. Thanks, Ola. Thanks, Ola Ulvestad. So Trump was in Tokyo recently, and Japanese media didn't, like, they covered him a lot, but they don't cover him the same way the Western news media covers him. There was that scandal where it showed Trump, like, dumping a bunch of fish food into a koi pond, like, stupid Trump. CNN deliberately edited this footage. A lot of news reports did, but you look at the actual reports and it just shows Prime Minister Abe like dumping a box of food, and then Trump following suit and dumping a box of food into a koi pond. And that deliberate editing was not really a part of the Japanese media cycle. It just showed it, and then people go, okay, Trump's in Japan, blah, blah, blah. I will say, though, that he was staying for a while at the Akasaka Palace, and I walk past that place most weekdays after work, and the security measures in place were, I would say, top-notch. In Japan, they just deploy lots of people, lots of police officers, and they monitor. So around the Akasaka Palace, Japan has this royal culture, and in order to accommodate other royalty or other heads of state, there's these places in Tokyo that are kind of transformed into royal Broadways, where one street over, the streets are narrow and make no sense in terms of path. But the royal street is a boulevard with trees and lining it, and very wide, and the way that the road sweeps into the royal palace is kind of designed that if you are a royal member of royalty or a head of state, it's going to make Tokyo look like what you would expect it to for you, like those fancy cars and a motorcade with all the Japanese officers in their official clothing kind of swooping down these wide boulevards and into a massive castle. But you go off one street and it's just these tiny Japanese streets with houses and shops all connected together in this mind-boggling way. So what the Japanese security measures do is they put Japanese officers on most intersections and on most mouths of streets. So where you have one street connecting to another street, you're going to see a police officer there, and he's going to have a metal gate, a small metal gate that he can just move himself. Most cars in Japan are like K cars, like they're in Tokyo especially. You don't see a lot of Hummers or Humvees. You don't see a lot of Humvees. You don't see a lot of massive SUVs like you would in, say, Mexico. Like it's pretty, they're there, but by and large, most of the cars in Japan are, in Tokyo especially, are small, fuel-efficient, compact cars because parking is so expensive and tax is so expensive. It kind of just leads to this hyper-economicization of automobiles in Tokyo. Nobody drives in Tokyo. There's too much traffic. So it doesn't require much police technology to monitor and deter potential threats because of the lack of large threatening vehicles. So if you just put police officers on the edges of streets and they have little metal gates that they can kind of throw into the way of oncoming threatening vehicles, then that's going to provide adequate protection. They also have, this isn't from this time, but when the Dutch royal family was visiting, I noticed that you would see police officers walking around with reflective vests. And then I would also see joggers posing, like police officers posing as joggers, where the police officer would look like a jogger, but they would have like a little microphone coming out of their ear, like it was like they could run around and monitor. So the police officer with the reflective vest catches your attention, but then there's the undercover cops that are also running around monitoring too. So it's basically a well connected manual police force that has the ability to communicate with each other and use simple tools effectively to deter threats. I like this approach because it's intuitive and you don't have to rely on a massive comms system with like a satellite. And, of course there's helicopters and stuff flying around, but it's boots on the ground, observing. Basically, that's it. Boots on the ground, observing. And that's it. And if you're suspicious, they might ask you to move over. There was a whole bunch of journalists sitting outside of the Akasaka Palace, and I thought, oh, maybe Trump's going to come out. So I kind of stood there for a few minutes, and I was like, I don't need this guy taking up my time. I'm not an anti-Trump guy. I'm not necessarily pro-Trump either, but I'm not this whole like wailing Western guy just goes, yeah, such a bad man, hates everyone. All right, that's mainstream media. Well, I kind of called it about a year ago. I was saying that, where is it? Okay, Trump has been really promoting war against North Korea, and I've mentioned this before. One of the things about North Korea is not its military; it's its social history, and I've talked about this in Japan before, where there are sleeper cells of North Koreans in Tokyo. There's North Korean banks. I think it's by now, a North Korean bank, North Korean schools, North Korean businesses. A lot of money from pachinko parlors and slot machines gets funneled back to North Korea through their Korean affiliates. So there's like about 30,000, I think, North Koreans, and there's a North Korean school where they have pictures of Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-sun, and they do dances to promote North Korean activities in Japan. It's this weird post-World War II agreement system where Japan had annexed North Korea in, I think, 1905, and then when Japan lost the war after World War II, 1945, it had to de-annex or return its foreign gains back to their original owners. And so all of these Koreans that had Japanese nationality suddenly didn't. They were not considered Japanese anymore. They were considered Koreans. So when North Korea and South Korea split, you also had a massive amount of North Koreans and South Koreans in Japan make a choice. And some of those North Koreans did make a choice. They chose to remain North Korean and then promote North Korean culture within Japan. So this is taken from November, and I talked about this about a year ago, and it's in the news today, I think, November 4th. So North Koreans in Japan loyal to roots amid discrimination. And this is by Yuri Kageyama from the JapanToday.com. Sorry, JapanToday.com. That's where I go for most of my Japanese news these days. It tends to be just straightforward, unbiased. The children, gathered into rows on a field in Tokyo, crouch and then reach up in unison, waving red, white, and blue banners to form a North Korean flag as the school band plays an emotional rendition of a song for their motherland. They are third and fourth generation descendants of Koreans, including many who were forcibly taken from their homeland to labor in mines and factories during Japan's colonization of the Korean peninsula from 1910 until 1945. Though many have become citizens of Japan or South Korea, the students' families remained loyal to their heritage, choosing to send their children to one of some 60 private schools that favor North Korea, teaching the culture and history. Despite recent North Korean missile launches, including 2 that flew over Japan, students and graduates of the schools say they take pride in their community and view it as a haven from the discrimination they face in Japan. Quote, "We do things together and we help each other," end quote. Ha Yong-na, a 16-year-old mix of giggles and poise, said as she demonstrated her Korean dance moves with a classmate. Here, portraits of the late North Korean leaders hang on the walls, and teachers instruct in the language of their ancestry, and Japanese and English are offered as foreign languages. About 450,000 ethnic Koreans live in Japan. Several thousand attend such schools. I wonder if there's anything else here. I think that's about it. The school goes on. The news article goes on. End quote. I want to believe my country is right, and I have believed in my country since I was a child, and that isn't going to waver, a North Korean student said. I believe my country is right. So there we go. So these are North Koreans that live in Japan, that when a North Korean missile fired by Kim Jong-un flies over Japan, these North Koreans basically cheer, go out into the field and wave North Korean flags. And after Trump came to Japan, I think his rhetoric is still strong against North Korea, but calling for war and fire and fury against North Korea is not so prevalent. I think it's because he was told about this social situation in Japan, and his tune changed, as I'm sure most people's tune would change if they realized that there's a Korean diaspora many parts of the world, and within that diaspora there are essentially what can become North Korean sleeper cells, and they can become terrorists in the drop of a hat, basically. So Japan does not want a war with North Korea. They're being strong with their words, but they obviously do not want this this canker sore to burn through the cheek and open up old wounds that show rotten teeth. All right, that's my metaphor. So, and a couple more things about Trump in Japan. This always comes up recently, and I used to work in an interpreting school, and interpreters are very coveted positions in Japan, and they're very difficult to achieve. You have to achieve high-level bilingual, how can I say this? High-level bilingual abilities to understand not only vocabulary and grammar, but culture and how to translate greetings can be even difficult. So basically, a lot of these translators become super proficient in 2 languages, and then they have to translate like Donald Trump, who speaks very simply. One interpreter was complaining about his simplistic grammar, which is just more media bias against him. I'm not sure if everyone has heard this clip or not, but this is from Trump in Japan talking about the North Korean threats, or not North Korean threats, I'm sorry, doing business. So let's just see how stupid he sounds.
From this day forward, we will compete on a fair and equal basis. I am always going to put America first, the same way that I expect all of you in this room to put your countries first. I will make bilateral trade agreements with any Indo-Pacific nation that wants to be our partner and that will abide by the principles of fair and reciprocal trade. What we will no longer do is enter into large agreements that tie our hands, surrender our sovereignty, and make meaningful enforcement practically impossible.
All right. It sounds like normal. It sounds like tough talks on trade, but it doesn't sound threatening. It doesn't sound discriminatory. It just says, let's do deals. That's it. And I wonder why so many people just get so angry about it. It's very odd for me. Very odd. All right, that's that. So what are the thoughts? Well, the military rhetoric is probably going to calm down. You're going to see drills, but those happen anyway. But I'm pretty sure that after the briefing in North Korea, a lot of, hopefully Trump has realized that due to Korea's social situation, not military situation, it's going to prevent military action from occurring with North Korea, and hopefully they don't go back into offering North Korea charity and aid, but military options are going to be, I think, off the table because of a litany of background issues and probably demands by Japan saying we got to solve this a different way because we don't want North Korean sleeper cells bombing tourist sites in the middle of this tourism boom, which we'll get to. Why not now? There's a lot of tourism going on in Japan. Numbers are up, and let's just take a brief overview at what is going on.
Foreign tourists are flocking to Japan. Government officials say the number of visitors has hit a new record high. Gina Otani joins us from the business desk with more details. So, Gina, this is good news for the tourism industry.
Retailers obviously really glad to hear this latest news. Officials say the number of visitors this year has already topped last year's total of more than 24 million.
And they're all on
marks
Facebook.
A record high for the fifth year in a row. Tourism Minister Keiichi Ishii said the milestone was reached on November 4th. The government wants to raise the number of visitors to 40 million by 2020. Annual gains of 15% will be needed to achieve the target.
40 million by 2020. Originally, that's double the prediction from a few years ago. Tourism is going bonkers right now in Tokyo. I mean, it's cray. Certain areas, like I got to change the entire way I think about traveling or walking through certain areas, like Shinjuku. There's like a road when I'm getting into Shinjuku that I go, okay, crossing this road, you're going into. It used to be like avoid the Nigerian scammers, but now it's like they're going to be surrounded by people on their smartphones. You're going to be surrounded by people bumping into shit, uploading their photos on a Facebook. Basically, there's like these corners that tourists gather at and take pictures of the same buildings and stuff like that. It's fine. I did that too. I think they're just doing it to show that they're in Japan, not because they're interested in actual photography so that they can get likes. It's essentially a monitoring class. That's what smartphone photography is. It's a monitoring class that updates in real time via multiple viewers what's happening in the world. And there we go. So when you have this kind of surge in tourism, you're also going to have people getting pretty wacky ideas. Now, there's a lot of Muslim tourists coming to Japan. I've noticed an increase in hijabs and the thing like just the regular the regular fabric that the women wear on their heads, definitely increasing. And Japan, being a business-based society, has some ideas on how to cash in on the Muslim boom in tourism.
A traditional textile maker in Kyoto is casting a keen eye on the surge in Muslim tourists.
I started thinking about what else we could make using our traditional technique. It occurred to me that Muslim prayer rugs could be made from our gold brocade and Nishijin fabrics. Muslim and Buddhist cultures have been brought together in a rug. By promoting this rug worldwide, we hope that more people will find Japan's appeal and Kyoto's traditional technique.
I'm wondering how much these rugs cost.
Well, I've checked and they cost from about $700 to $900. And once they went on sale, one visitor bought 10 rugs to bring back to his friends in Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
Right. So, Hideki, you have friends in Dubai. Maybe you can buy some as presents for them.
Well, maybe. I'm sure they'll like it.
Yeah, but pretty expensive.
All right, that's the idea. Japanese woven Muslim prayer rugs and being bought by people from Saudi Arabia. So that's kind of, you got to get on that kind of stuff really early. Otherwise, you run the risk of missing that business chance. There's a whole bunch of rules as well that go into Muslim prayer rugs. You can't have animals on them because Muslims, that would be to a Muslim apparently. Bowing on that would be idolatry. So it has to be geometric patterns. And in that report, I edited it out. The Japanese people incorporated the 4 seasons of Japan into the fabric patterns. And I was thinking, is that okay? Japan being a Buddhist society, incorporating its Buddhist images or its Buddhist culture into a Muslim prayer rug for Muslims. I'm not sure. Japan is kind of naive. Japanese people could be extremely naive with this type of thing sometimes. Like it's Japan. Japan is good. 4 seasons. 4 seasons are good. 4 seasons in Japan are good. So let's put them into somebody else's religious tool. And a lot of people will go, I don't know. Well, that's a bit. Why did you do that? Anyways, that is the report of tourism in Tokyo. I'm one of those guys now who I just see all the tourists on there. I'm like, you're in Japan and all you can do is upload your fucking photos to Facebook in groups. Ugh, it's disgusting. Get off your fucking phones. Get off your phones. All right. Next, we're going to move on to machines. Yes. So the machines are coming. We are going to be replaced by machines. The globalists want this. They desire a replacement. And the way they do this is they introduce a solution for a niche group of people, and then they expand on that solution to ensnare a wider proportion of the population. So let's take a look at this report. This is machines that monitor you in your sleep.
Etsuko Yamamoto lives in Yokohama City, near Tokyo. She's been on her own since her husband died 6 years ago. Last year, she was admitted to hospital with severe back pain.
I suffered all night. The pain was awful. I didn't know what to do.
Yamamoto grew increasingly anxious about her isolation. Then something happened to put her mind at ease. Yamamoto signed up to take part in a trial of a watchover service developed by electronics company Fujitsu. A device developed by Fujitsu uses microphones and sensors to monitor sound, movement, temperature, and other data.
It's so
The
happy.
device can detect when someone falls out of bed or trips over. It sends an alert to a call center where nurses are standing by to help.
どうされましたか？石井さん、石井さん。あ、聞こえました。はい、安心しました。
The device also monitors coughing, snoring, and irregular breathing.
Yeah. Nothing to see
Staff
here,
from the
folks.
company visit Yamamoto to discuss her health. Data collected by the device shows that the temperature and humidity in Yamamoto's bedroom have been high. On more than 20 days, the conditions could potentially have caused heat stroke.
Could have.
The chance of heat stroke can increase. So if
Can.
you feel it's hot,
If.
I usually use an electric fan.
Why not use the air conditioner?
At last, I feel more safe. Thanks to the device, I'm not worried at all.
I'm not worried at all. Yeah, that's how they frame it. They put all of the information in the middle, and then they say potential, if, can, could, to explain the possibilities. And then at the end, they say, yay, it's great. It's great. I love this monitor. Not only do we have tourists being turned into monitoring classes, we have our speakers being turned into our monitors at night that monitor our humidity and levels of heat stroke. Now, of course, I would say this would be fine for like an animal hospital or people that are in comas, things like that for these medical situations. But I'm always worried that they're going to say, oh, it worked so well for the senior citizens. We're now going to install this into every home. And you get knocks on the door at night, and then it just progresses from there. Who knows where it leads to, but it's definitely information is power. It's not about the cost, it's about the information. They want to know even how you sleep. And if you fall out of bed, it's not up to you to get back into bed. It's up to the government to help you get back into bed, because you can't help yourself. So, again, this is for old people who can't help themselves, of course. But where does it go from there? Oh, we've seen a potential profit in this extra 100 million group of people. Don't worry, we'll keep your information safe. But we want all of your information, and we want you to pay us so that we can have your information to keep you safe. All right. I don't know if people listen to this consider such threats, but I really do. And I don't know. It's okay if there's a benevolent society, but one person comes in and they can really use that in a different way, in a different manner. So there we go. Going to finish up here pretty soon. We don't need to do everything here. All right, well, let's wrap it up. Let's go on. I got some kawaii reports. This is about kawaii culture in Japan, and this is basically how I think the world views Southeast Asia and Southeast Asians. This is basically, here is your stereotype. Those thoughts you have in your head are right.
A shopping mall called Nakano Broadway in Nakano near Shinjuku. The shops are filled with vintage toys, including lots from Magical Girl anime.
Wow. Look at
my God.
This is the wand section. It's full of wands.
The mall is also popular among people who love subculture fashion. First, they go to this shop that is just 10 square meters large.
Oh, the dinosaur.
They have kitty earrings and toy watches. Yu Monster found something. Fish slippers. They look so real.
They did look really real. They look like fish.
Look at this.
It's fish slippers.
Those are amazing.
There you go. Cute music, anime, wand section, giggling girls going, oh my God, it's so cute. And then, of course, wacky. Those fish slippers looked like those guys that fish, the anglers, they have like those fish on their mantelpiece. It looked like that kind of fish. Like there was scales. It was not like a cartoon fish. So you got these girls with these like pink dresses on with hairbands, dangly things off of their wrists, fuzzy watches, walking around in fish slippers. That is the Asia that I think people believe in. Hold on, I got to take this call. All right, had to take that call. I'm going to a French restaurant for lunch called La Coquillage in Kagurazaka, which is a French restaurant district in Tokyo. It's brilliant. Oh, I'm going to have maybe some plum wine with steak. I don't know. I hope it's something like that. All right, finishing up the podcast with another kawaii report. This one is called The Finger.
They go to this shop that is popular with fans of the dreamy Yume Kawake style.
I love this one especially.
The finger.
Yu Yu Monster found a finger-shaped accessory. It's a hair clip.
You put a finger in your hair.
I love it. It looks super weird. What's this?
Kelly found something too.
I like it.
It's a stuffed doll of a high school boy in glasses.
Everywhere.
This shop has lots of items featuring this guy. His name is Shuji-kun, and he's the shop's own character. The shop owner used a photo of a friend from high school for the products. The Shuji-kun fan club pins are the shop's best-selling product.
It's very geared toward memes and inside jokes and things.
Well, what happened there? I don't know what happened there.
Very geared toward memes and inside jokes and things that are weird and obscure and kind of like make you uncomfortable.
Exactly.
I don't understand. Yeah, anyways, you put a finger in your hair. It's like a hair clip, but it looks like a finger. So it's just like this finger. You put on your fish slippers, you put on your finger, and then you walk around with a doll that's shaped like a high school boy with glasses, and it's like a super nerdy regular high school guy. And that's the official product of that shop. That is, if you're listening to this and you're not from Japan and you have all these weird ideas about Asia, they exist, dude. They exist. And it's just like the girls got to run around giggling, buying weird stuff to put on their bodies and promote the economy, stay away from the Orwellian nightmares that are in my head, and go home and watch TV, and then the next day try to get good grades on their math tests. I mean, that is a big part of the identity that people here face, and that's why the music's not very good, because no one, I know, where is the contemplation? It's hard to find. It's easy to find images and advanced distribution systems, but where is the angst? Where is the existential threat? We don't see that a lot in Japan. All right, so I think I can leave it for there. So what is the overall theme for today's show? Well, the overall theme is that despite what the media says, Trump is not as stupid as they interpret him to be. We're going to see more of the rhetoric towards North Korea change from attack to manage based on the Korean international diaspora. And the potential terrorist sleeper threats. I mean, you attack North Korea. Are those North Korean students going to start making non-conventional bombs and placing them in supermarkets or in tourist destinations? I mean, that's on the books, dudes. That's on the books. So the rhetoric towards North Korea is going to change. The machines are increasingly encroaching upon our data, upon our privacy. Like I said, there's the machines that help monitor our breathing and snoring patterns and will alert the authorities if somebody falls out of bed. Nanny state much. And then, of course, just ignore all of that and go and buy some cute fish slippers. That's all we need to do, folks. So thank you for tuning in. If you're interested, I host an open mic. This has nothing to do with open mics and anything like that, but I do host an open mic. The next one actually is coming up really soon. It's on November the 15th. It's a Wednesday in Gamuso, Asagaya, Tokyo. So that's Asagaya, Tokyo, November 15th. Open mic, acoustic night. I have some new microphones that I'm going to use, and I also have a new microphone camera. So I'm thinking of having the opportunity where you can have a video taken with good sound quality and then upload that up onto YouTube for your own promotion. So you get an acoustic performance, meaning your voice is going to carry through. You're going to have a high quality HD video with Zoom level microphones, and you're going to be able to use a decent pencil microphone for your acoustic instrument and have a good condenser microphone for your voice. So even though Gamaso is a total shithole, we got great craft beers there, and we're increasing the capabilities of our technology for your acoustic experience. So come on down to Sagaya, Gamaso, 15th November for your acoustic open mic. This has been the Matty B Files, the podcast that broadcasts Tokyo subculture. Please check out the jungles. Please check out our music selections. Please go to our websites, and the musicians need the listeners more than ever before. There is no music industry where you have to give it away for free and we get nothing in return. So that's our business model. It's basically the model of this podcast too. Thank you for listening. Have a great week. Catch you next time. Next week is going to be a jam cast. I'm in talks with Nicholas right now when to record it. A jam cast is when I hook up the microphones to a drum kit and a guitar, and we make a loose plan of some genres to play. We hit the record button and we record a jam in real time. So looking forward to that. Until then, catch you next time. Wait a minute. Breaking news. I've just been talking about all these things about the social relationships between North Korea and Japan and how the military tact would not pan out based on the American approach, because Americans approach North Korea via military history and they're ignorant about the social history. And I just came back from that French restaurant. I had a steak. It was delicious. I had a chocolate cake, steak, fish and dill sauce, and I had pate with nice mustard and salad. Feeling good. But anyways, this is the Trump tweet for November 12th. Why would Kim Jong-un insult me by calling me, quote, old, end quote, when I would never call him, quote, short and fat, end quote. Oh, well, I try so hard to be his friend, and maybe someday that will happen. Boom. Called it. I think Trump got some education, some social history when he was in Japan on those golf courses with Prime Minister Abe. The last thing the Prime Minister of Japan wants is the Pyongyang calling for North Korean terrorist cells to bomb tourists in the booming sections of the economy. They want to keep those economic booms rolling and not North Korean terrorist booms. So if the Americans attack North Korea, Pyongyang can activate its terrorist cells. That would cause international consequences economically, socially. It would disrupt a lot. So Pyongyang is living with this extra strange wild card up their sleeve, and they don't want to activate it. So boom, change tactics to social approach. Keep it calm, keep it cool. Try to be friends instead of militaristic enemies. I've been seeing this path for a long time, and I'm not surprised that it's happened. I'm glad that I was able to call it way earlier, and I went beyond the mainstream media. I looked at the statistics, I looked at the facts, and I extrapolated out from there to include ramifications based on actions. And the ramifications that I saw would be out of favor with the actions had they had happened. So we're going to keep it social. Look forward to, I have to figure out the next path. But anyways, if you've been following this podcast and going, wow, this Matty B guy is crazy, you're kind of right. But at the same time, I'm going to say I was right in this case. And I'm one of the only people that I've heard take this approach. And I did it knowing that I was right. For now. All right, everyone. That's it. Thank you. See you next time.
アイドホのことは知らないけどアイドホポテトは食べるよみんな食べるからね アイドホ行ったら国立公園で月のクレーター見るんだ。みんな見てるからね。ボイジーの近くで何か食べに行こう。みんな食べるからね。みんな食べるからね。ホーチミンで会った女の子、名前はセブン。お気に入りの数字は11。僕はいい気分。セブンイレブンいい気分。チャンビールチャンビール、タイのチャンビールちゃんと酔っ払ったよ。みんな酔っ払おうからね。それであゆたや雪のチケット買って歩き回っても酔っ払ってたよ。みんな見てたけどね。メコン川沿いに立って歴史の長さに感動だ。みんな気にしないけどね。みんな気にしないけどね。ホーチミンで会った女の子、名前はセブン。お気に入りの数字は11。僕はいい気分。セブンイレブンいい気分。僕の目をまっすぐ見て南に行こう南に行こう。僕の目をまっすぐ見て国境の南に行こう。国境の南に行こう。みんないないところはいいね。ビゲローと同じビゲロー晩の宇宙バンガローに一部屋プリーズ。みんな行きたいでしょ。プロショの宇宙飛行士とスペースウォーカーパーティーだ。みんな飲みたいでしょ。若者って無質で地球を見たら地図で見たのと全然違うよ。